Hina, it's cold outside by silent Magi. Tenten looked out the window quietly, seeing the first winter snowstorm to have ever hit the Hino Kuni. It had snowed before, but nothing like this. She couldn't even see 3 inches past her window, as there was only white. Hinata, I don't think you should go. I really can't stay, the Hyuga heiress answered as she pulled on her coat. She had been enjoying time with Tenten, despite having sworn last year on Christmas to hate the woman with every fiber of her being. However, Naruto and Tenten had done so much over the year to ensure that she wasn't depressed. In fact, if one were to read her mind when she was completely alone and in her room, she would have to admit to the truth that her dreams of Naruto had lately been including Tenten more and more. But Hina, it's cold outside. Tenten offered with a worried tone as she turned away from the window and walked over to her friend. The nickname had caught her off guard at first, but now it was just a little sweet quirk that made Tenten, well Tenten. As was what Hinata knew was coming next. A nice, big hug. As much as Hinata would have loved to remain in those strong, warm arms, she knew she had to get home soon, or else her clan would be on her case even more for being more disappointing to them. I've got to go away. Tenten sighed heavily as she rested her chin on the shorter girl's shoulder and moved so she was standing behind her. Extending one of her fingers out, she pointed at the thermometer attached to the window, showing the temperature outside, which was well into the negative digits. No, Hina, it's cold outside. This evening has been. Hinata paused for a moment while smiling warmly at her hostess, who was murmuring something about Naruto having hoped that she would drop in. So very nice. Tenten scooped up the heiress' hands and cupped them in her own. I'll hold your hands, they're just like ice. The weapon mistress murmured as she lightly blew on them to add a little extra warmth. Oh, that felt good, and would definitely be in with her fantasies to come tonight. Niji Nizan will start to worry. Hinata offered lamely as she tried to pull out of Tenten's warm embrace. Not too forcefully, however, since it was warm and the outside world was cold. It was a bit odd to consider the once haughty and domineering Niji being little better than a mother hen with Hanabi and herself, a bit odd but endearing at times. Hina-chan, what's your hurry? Tenten whined as she tried to tug the girl over to the fire where 2 steaming mugs of hot cocoa were waiting for them to enjoy. Hinata looked at the delicious hot chocolate, seeing the peppermint stick standing out of it proudly as though to challenge her to come and drink the cocoa before crunching her way through it. What stopped her from taking a long, soothing sip of the drink was the mental image of her father and the rest of the clan scowling at her in disappointment again. My father will be pacing the floor. Listen to the fireplace roar. Tenten whispered huskily as she continued to guide Hinata towards the blanket that was spread in front of the flame-lit hearth. It really did look inviting, and the hot chocolate would be wonderful to have before braving the snow. She really did have to go, there was cookies to make, and a cake to bake, and she had promised to help her sister peek on her presents this year, without using their byakugan since the presents were usually set to alarm their father should someone try peeking with the jujutsu. I really better scurry. Hina-chan, please don't hurry. Tenten whined pleadingly, trying to get her friend to stick around. It really was too nasty out, and that cocoa did smell amazing right now. Maybe just a cocoa mug more. Hinata acquiesced while settling in next to the fire. It wasn't like her sister and father wouldn't understand. And with there being nothing that would allow her to talk to her family over a distance, without risking herself to the wind and weather outside. Oh, how useful that could be, a communication device that she could just input some specified identifiers and contact her family. Tenten took a couple steps over to put on some soft music before settling in next to her friend and enjoying her cocoa as well. She knew that Hinata would enjoy it, especially with the hint of cinnamon she'd slipped in. The elders will rant. Hinata mused quietly as she slowly sipped her drink, letting it warm her body through and through. Those cold-hearted old bastards would scream their heads off at the thought of her having fun instead of being a boring, stuffy, egocentric Hyuga like the rest of them. However, her friends just wouldn't let her fall to their plans. The pair shivered as the wind howled louder outside, causing the snow to whip around harder and faster while they hid out in the warm glow of the fire. Tenten took the opportunity to wrap an arm around Hinata's shoulders again, giving her a warm, friendly hug. Hina, it's bad out there. WH. What's in this drink? Hinata asked, pulling herself out of the blissful trance the wonderful drink had sent her into for a few minutes. It was splendid, but she just couldn't figure out what the special about this drink, it just really made her feel good. A little freshly grated cinnamon and peppermint, Tenten explained while drinking her own mug of the wonderful concoction. Naruto made it especially for you before he left, and we've kept it warm with Naruto's new ramen heating seal. It's good. Hinata mused quietly before taking another sip slowly, letting the flavor wash over her completely before taking another taste of it. After all, her precious Naruto-kun had spent the time to ensure that this drink was made just for her, she couldn't waste it by being greedy. I hope Naruto gets home safe, doesn't look like you could see past your nose out there, Tenten worried quietly as she looked out the window, finding nothing but white within the low light's limited reach. This is a beautiful night to stay inside. Hinata mused as she warmed her hands around the cup carefully. It felt almost like that perfected genjutsu that Kurenai-sensei had put her under, making her not even want to attempt breaking it. Your eyes are shining like stars right now. Tenten purred softly as she leaned her head against Hinata's shoulder lightly. Did I ever tell you just how much I love your hair? So shiny and smooth, like a little waterfall rolling past your shoulders. Ten, stop that. Hinata squeaked slightly with a fierce blush burning her cheeks as the weapons mistress played idly with the heiress's hair, Tenten giggling at how her name sounded stuttered into near oblivion. As Hinata blushed heavily as she looked at her. Please, just stop. You're with NNNNN. Naruto-kun? Tenten asked curiously as she grinned wolfishly at the stuttering princess. She still couldn't say his name without almost fainting when like this. You've never complained before tonight, but that was because Naruto-kun was there, wasn't it? And here came the finger-poking and nodding. You could set your watch by the progression of a mildly aroused Hinata. The blush, the stuttering, the finger-poking, and then came the fainting, but Tenten wanted her to stay awake, so she backed off slightly. I'm glad you came over tonight, Hinata, you're a great friend, Tenten finished after a second's pause. She wanted to say a lot more, but you never say the L word or G word when Hinata's finger poking. Well, she'd hidden the smelling salts nearby, just in case. It really is cold outside, isn't it? It is odd. The weather promised sunny and slightly cool. Hinata agreed. It had never been this wintry before, and if it didn't break in the morning, the area would grind to a standstill, but I'll be okay. Hanabi probably has a warm coat and some fire jutsus waiting and some scrolls for me to meet her. Tenten contemplated Hanabi. She'd been fun, and didn't pass out when she accidentally flirted with the wrong Hyuga. A dozen times in the same month last time she had that accident. How someone could be that clumsy 4 months in a row. Including twice, where they were both naked and sharing a bath just last week. But that wasn't important now, she had a mission to accomplish, and she never missed her target. Especially when it was right in front of her. Do you think she'd be suspicious if you stayed overnight at Naruto's house? Last time I brought it up, she asked if she could come over. Hinata answered thoughtfully, don't know why. Magi refused to let her though. He's already annoyed how much I stay. There was the linchpin of annoyance in this past year. She had tried so hard to get the 2 Hyuga sisters to warm up to the idea that a little harmless flirting between girls was good and fun, and that the consequences after that didn't matter. However, that big brother of a cousin was a worse stick in the ass than Sasuke ever had been. Although, she could always pull out her little blackmail bundle she had on him. But she wanted to keep that little bundle of information secret, just in case she ever needed to escape from Gai-sensei again. Well, she was the weapons mistress of Konoha, and that meant using every weapon a ninja had the best and most accurate way. And information was the most lethal of all weapons. As she thought about Hanabi, she wondered if the warm coats they'd be using would be the bunny hoodies, then squashed that image before she spoiled it by going with Hinata and leaving Naruto girl-free. Especially if Hayashi suspected his daughters were even sleeping with the pariah of the village. Heads rolled whenever he found out something that displeased him. usually without an owner. I've never seen such a blizzard before. Tenten mused as she looked out the window again. This reminds me of a story Naruto told me about a mission he was on in the land of snow. It was worse than this apparently. He said that anyone going out on a night like this would freeze before they got to their destination. The door banged open as a violet figure with a pair of faux bunny ears on their head stumbled in, swearing as they brushed snow off them. I am not going back out there. A familiar voice to both girls said, as Hanabi removed her hood, Hinata, we're staying here for the night. Why were you here, Hanabi-chan? Hinata asked as she rushed over to help her sister out of her coat and over towards the fire, where Tenten was pouring another cup of cocoa. I was meeting with Magi at her house, and thought I'd walk home with you, Hanabi answered, accepting the cup. There's rumors on the radio that the weather isn't a natural storm. Tenten wrapped a blanket around the younger Hyuga's shoulders, carefully, as the girl sipped her cocoa with a smile. As they settled in, she couldn't help but notice Hanabi's pants were wet up to the knees. You should take those off and let them dry by the fire. I'll loan you a pair of sleeping pants. Thank you, Tenten-senpai, Hanabi replied formally, as she had been trained through years of being raised as a main branch Hyuga clan member. As they left the room together, Hinata was left alone by the fire with her thoughts. She couldn't protest leaving anymore, but Tenten had someone else to focus her attentions on as well. That was a good thing, wasn't it? Then why did it make her want to kick Hanabi out into the snow? The sound of approaching feet alerted her to another's presence, and turning around she was surprised at what she saw. Naruto was standing in the entryway dusting snow out of his hair, with a huge grin on his face as though to say he had enjoyed the blizzard outside. Hey Hina-chan, Naruto called out, using Tenten's nickname, staying the night? Good, that means I can give you your present first thing Christmas morning. Oh right, it was Christmas Eve. Her present for Naruto was already under the tree the couple had set up this year, having gone together on getting a house with both of their paychecks from the past year. She was with Naruto-kun on Christmas, alone by the fire. No. Don't faint now, he's right here, explain to him about your feelings, Hinata. Do it. Hinata's mind screamed at her while seeing Naruto settle in across from the fire from her. Somehow she managed to stay upright, maybe it was the sugar from the cocoa, or maybe it was the year's experience being around Naruto, but something gave her the strength to stall the fainting spell. Maybe she could do this, she could tell Naruto how much she loved him, and that while she accepted his relationship with Tenten, she'd always be there for him should it ever go wrong. She couldn't tell him that she wanted both him and Tenten, that would just be wrong. Wouldn't it? Hey Hina-chan, look up, Naruto suggested calmly while pointing above the girl's head, causing her to look up, and see a strange green and white plant hanging over her head from the rafters with a red ribbon. Do you know what that is? No. Hinata answered nervously as she tried to divine what that plant in question exactly was. It looked familiar, but she just couldn't figure out why. There is this tradition in the lands where Christmas came from, about a plant called mistletoe. In it, two people found under the mistletoe would have to kiss. Naruto mused softly, sounding a lot closer than he had been. Lowering her gaze back at him, she blushed heavily as she realized he was kneeling right in front of her, looking deeply into her eyes. That plant is called mistletoe, and we're under it. But Tenten. Hinata objected quietly as she tried to squirm back, not wanting to kick the man she had fallen in love with. Not that she didn't want to be kissed by him, but it wouldn't be fair to do that to her friend. But he was so close, so willing. That's when she ran into a solid wall of warmth, as familiar arms encircled her tenderly, looping themselves over her stomach. Don't you know, Hina? The best gifts to receive are the ones you can share with others. Why, yes. Hinata offered nervously as she felt Tenten's breath on her neck, causing her hormones to fire into overdrive. That's when she saw that Naruto had closed the gap between them while she'd been distracted and was looking her directly in the eyes. I was Tenten's gift last year, and she wants to share me with you. Naruto whispered huskily as he ran a finger over Hinata's lips. We can stop this, and go back to being just friends, all you have to do is refuse to kiss me once more. Hinata bit her lower lip nervously as she watched Naruto's warm blue eyes dancing playfully just inches from her face. They were gazing into her eyes so tenderly she swore she could feel her body and resistance melting away. It was on her to accept being with Naruto, but she'd have to share with Tenten. Unbidden, the memories of some of her latest fantasies drifted into her mind, the ones that included Tenten as well as Naruto. They were laid out before her, just begging for her to accept them. All she had to do was accept one kiss, from the man she'd loved for so long. Just one, single, tender, kiss. Hanabi smirked as she watched her sister stop hesitating, and began to loop her arms around the sexy blonde's shoulders gently. As she turned away from her sister's first kiss, she smirked to herself as she heard Tenten's cheer the pair on. She'd have to tell Magi about this, but for tonight, it was just a matter of getting some sleep. Thank the gods that Naruto insisted on using silencing seals on the bedrooms along with the security ones. As she went to get some sleep, Tenten stopped her, pointing to some mistletoe above her head. "I never miss," was the last thing Hanabi heard before Tenten made her strike. The kiss was amazing, though she'd had better. Thank God she was in an open relationship, now to get her lover over here next time. "Merry Christmas, Hanabi," Tenten offered quietly as she pulled back with a playful smirk on her face. Meanwhile, several houses away, Haku looked guilty as she finally managed to get the storm under control. "Whoops," she offered lamely to the girl she'd been sharing a room with the night before. "Should I tell them that you're a girl, you're alive, or you caused the storm?" Koyuki replied, pulling her down. "How about none of the above, and keep the storm going a bit longer?" Haku paused a moment to consider the words that the Snow Princess was telling her, before leaning in and kissing her again. "Baby, it's cold outside. And we've no place to go." Koyuki answered, picking up the toys they'd been playing with earlier, a teasing smirk on her face. Who knew her new girlfriend caused blizzards when she was excited? "Let it snow, woohoo." Haku moaned loudly, causing the wind to whip up outside as her back arched. Her girlfriend was so very creative in how she did things. It was a full week before the weather got under control. No one complained, openly. At least no one important, but for some reason Irika couldn't stop smirking and Kakashi refused to explain why he couldn't sit down for the next month. The end.
Go support me on Patreon for more fan fiction that includes adult content as well. The link is in the description and like everywhere on my channel. Thank you for your views, likes, subscriptions, and overall support of my ongoing efforts to bring great content to all of you.